Hey, Russell, this is Dan Locke. Out of the thousands and thousands of funnels that you've built and helped build, what do you think is the key difference between a funnel that generates 7-figure in revenue versus an 8-figure revenue? What are some of the key components?
What's up, Dan? Thank you so much for the question. And I think that's actually a really smart question. People rarely ask that. They're usually like, what funnel is going to work? And your question, obviously, as someone who has gone to 8 figures and beyond, is looking like, what are the differences? And it's interesting. The companies that are winning 2 Comma Club X awards, like you and like the other ones, it's not so much they have a super complicated funnel. It's not like, oh, they've got 500 different funnels. Most of them have like 2 or 3 funnels, and they're not complicated. They're very simple. They're systemized, and they convert, right? They focus more on selling on each page in the funnel. They focus more on like becoming better at telling the story, becoming better doing the webinar. Like the focus is in the creative inside the pages of the funnel, not so much the funnel. So it's not like, oh, they had 45 steps and 13 upsells and 22 downsells and 19 different follow-up funnels and sequences and went from here to here to here. Like that's not what they're doing. They're like, I've got a funnel with 4 pages. It's a free plus shipping offer, right? There's free plus shipping offer. There's my upsell, my downsell, and my other upsell. And then they focus insane on the conversion each page. Like, how do I make this convert higher? What do I need to do on this page? What do I need to do on this page? And they just focus on that. It's like the little tiny levers that swing huge doors, right? And they have a front end funnel, and then they have like an upsell funnel. And most of the companies in 2 Comma Club X they've gotten this huge award right here. In fact, are you on this one, Dan? I know you got one last year. Anyway, this is the 2 Comma Club X award. The X stands for $10 million. But most of the people who stand on the stage, again, they have 2 or maybe 3 funnels, and there are 3 funnels in the value ladder, right? It's like a free plus shipping funnel to get people in. They have a webinar funnel to sell high ticket thing. And again, they obsess with the webinar. They do it live over and over and over and over and over again to make sure the pitch, the presentation, the offer is perfect. And that's where the focus goes to. And then they have a high ticket thing on the back end. But like, that's the focus. It's not a million different funnels. It's focusing on the creative inside of each funnel. It's focusing on the message. That's the difference between someone who's got, an okay funnel to a 7-figure funnel to beyond. As they become really good at the copy, the creative, the selling, like that part of it is the most important part. So I hope that helps, and excited, hopefully, Dan, to give you another one of these 2 Comma Club X awards at next year's Funnel Hacking Live. In fact, next Funnel Hacking Live, we're introducing 2 Comma Club C award because we got a bunch of people who are creeping up on $100 million inside of a funnel, and simple is the key.
A Philippine podcast show dedicated to help you thrive for greatness.
This guy is phenomenally passionate about what he does.
How freaking amazing Jameer is. So skilled and so qualified, and I highly recommend him.
Without a doubt, the best funnel builder I've ever come across.
Yeah, really into the detail, and cannot recommend him highly enough.
Not only was efficient and fast, but he understood the project.
The person who built our entire funnel from beginning to end and has been with us since day 1 is Jameer.
Nothing But Up, the podcast. With your host, Jameer Angelo.
I'm always flexing.
Yet another beautiful day to everybody tuned in. Welcome to the podcast. This is Nothing But Up, the podcast, and I'm your host, Jameer Angelo, and this is episode number 9. This is going to be another epic episode today that I promise you, and who could be a better guest to have on our show than having someone who works inside ClickFunnels itself. Yes, that's right. So we're going international again today, guys. And I'm going to be bringing out a co-funnel expert in today's episode. And we'll talk about the difference between a funnel that brings 7 figures in revenue versus a funnel that brings 8 figures in revenue. So that's going to be a massive, massive topic that we'll be talking today, which funnel builders or experts like myself could learn tons, a lot. But I think before we officially start, I appreciate everybody that has stayed with us in the course of the 2 months over. Thank you so much for the support. And if you just happen to, come across this podcast just now, well, it's never too late. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. You can also watch us in action through our YouTube channel. Okay? Again, thanks to everybody. So let's dive into today's topic. So what's the difference between a funnel that brings 7 figures in revenue versus a funnel that brings 8 figures in revenue? And as Russell Bronson said, in general, I think in general overview, it is totally about simplicity. Simplicity meaning you don't need to complicate things and somehow reinvent something within the funnel flow. You see, 8 figure income, or I mean revenue generating funnels, focuses on the aspect of simplicity, having to only have maybe around 4 or 5 maximum funnels going around the offer, product, or service, and focusing in on scaling. This can be done by way of split testing or perhaps adjusting every single aspect of the funnel steps, tweaking the back end, email automation, and making sure data is read carefully. And I think I'm just somehow maybe blessed in this niche. To be honest with you, I never imagined myself. I mean, I've been part of many successful 7 figure revenue funnels already for different clients, and stuff like that. But I'm still dreaming to go to that place where I can help a client hit 8 figures, if not for my personal business, right? There's no limit in dreaming. We all dream of something, right? So I hope you're not taking that against me. That's my take. And you can do nothing about that. But if you're new to funnels or maybe considering to be one, now I think is the best time. You see, today more than ever, especially, I mean, us who's living in a third world country like the Philippines, somehow, we need to look into alternatives to better our lives. Not just with our careers, but man, seriously, financially too. It is very challenging, right? So this podcast is definitely your avenue to find one. And I'm trying my best to become, that instrument to try and bridge the gap between where you are right now to where you are headed. Okay? But going back to funnels, it is a very lucrative niche. It is. Trust me. It is highly in demand, and not all people have the skill set as of yet. Right? You can make money in 2 ways, really. I mean, number 1, become a funnel builder. Simply servicing clients to build their funnels. It could be a product, a service, or whatever they have as a client to offer. Okay, and I think as far as I'm seeing the marketplace, hourly rates ranges from about $10 to $15 per hour for entry levels. Right? Imagine if you can work maybe 6-7 hours a day. You multiply that to the current currency we have here in the Philippines. Imagine how much money you're making just for an entry level, if it makes sense. And professional levels for pros, it could go as high as $100 an hour to $250 an hour. That massive. And you're just doing funnel building, right? And that is what the trend is all about. Now, if you try and search, over and try to see which one is, or skill set is very lucrative as far as 2020 is concerned, it will definitely show up, right? So since the market isn't as, congested in a way, I think it really pays to capitalize on that and, begin starting to make action, right? The other second step that you can do by entering the funnel building niche is to become a funnel strategist, like myself, where there is no limit. You can ask as high as you want. Sky's the limit. This profession has made me financially free. It has made me become, it has made me from becoming, a security guard before, struggling to get meets end, to having enough for my family, my wife, Macy, and for all of my kids. My kiddos, LJ, Lauren Jill, Janice Isaac, Lee Rain, Jameer Anistoff, Jamea Angeli, and Memphis Jin. I so love you all. Everything that I'm doing, this is all for your welfare. I am inspired to get up every day, work sleepless nights, all for you. You are my drive. That's where my passion is coming from. Now, I may not be the best dad there is. I'm not me the best papa you can have, but I'm doing everything in my power and authority to become better every day. So you will all be proud of me. At least your papa or your daddy is trying to make a mark in this world. And really not settling for mediocrity. I really want to excel, and I believe I'm really good at what I'm doing, and the result speaks for itself. And as what I've said, I'm doing this everything for you guys. So, kids, if you're tuned in to this episode is solely dedicated to you. And I hope you are proud of your papa, you are proud of your daddy. I love you all, guys. Kiddos, I love you. And yeah, I'm beginning to be emotional again. I don't know what has kicked in. But anyway, let me just try and compose myself for maybe a few seconds, perhaps. When we go back, let's try and introduce our international guest for today. He's from Australia. Let's try and pick his brain and talk more about funnels. So please stay tuned.
As they say, food takes people to places. So during these crazy times, one can take his taste buds on a trip to Western Visayas by trying out one of its specialties. If you've ever been to Negros Occidental, you may have already tried its famous comfort food, Cansi. It's a dish made with slow-cooked beef shanks in deep sour broth soup. Bacolod City is particularly famous for Cansi. It's an iconic Ilonggo dish that is now available in Cebu. Good news for Cebuanos. You can now indulge with a bowl or two of Cansi in Cebu. Introducing Cole's Cansi. Located in the heart of Cebu. Open to serve you daily. To order, visit and message them on Facebook. Satisfy your craving and relieve that stress away. Cole's Cansi, an iconic Ilonggo dish that is now available in Cebu.
I'm always flexing.
And we are back. Yes, thanks for staying in. I am so humbled to have him say yes and guest on today's show. As I've mentioned, he works as a VIP support at ClickFunnels. He is also a ClickFunnels expert and a Funnelytics expert, all in his name. He is also the host of the podcast Funnel Fellow Radio. And I'm so honored to introduce to you Scott Dudley from Australia. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, Jimmy, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
All good, man. How are you?
Yeah, going well. Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Nice, man. I know it's been short notice, and again, thank you. Thank you for honoring us to be on the show today.
My pleasure, man. Let's do it.
All right, let's dive right in. I mean, man, who could you probably have a guest that knows and works inside ClickFunnels, right? Other than this man that we're looking right now. So let's dive right in. How long have you been working with ClickFunnels, Scott? I mean, for VIP support?
Yeah, so I started at ClickFunnels in January 2018. So it's coming up to 3 years. I'm based in Australia, so obviously I'm working remotely. I'm not actually working in the office at ClickFunnels. So yeah, I started there, sort of just doing tech support. Started from the bottom. And yeah, sort of did pretty well, worked my way up, and then sort of helping out with the VIP customers. And it's mainly tech support that we're helping them out with, sort of if there's things wrong with their funnels, such as order pages not working, or, any sort of issues where integrations or pretty much anything, then they'll send the ticket in, and yeah, we'll answer the ticket and help them to get the funnel working. That doesn't include marketing support. I mean, I'd love to also include marketing support as well, but that's sort of beyond the scope of what we're supposed to be doing. So, Yeah, it's mainly just tech support, and it's sort of great to have the freedom of working from home and sort of doing hours that suit me because because I'm in Australia, it's the same time zone as the Philippines, so our daytime is America's nighttime, so I do the night shift, US hours. It's just sort of been good. So coming up to 3 years in January and really enjoying it.
Nice. 3 years. That's pretty long, man. And I mean, people like you, for everybody listening to our show, it is such a vital role for any piece of a company to have a very solid support team, especially in your case that you're doing technical stuff and trying to help things, fixed for customers that ClickFunnels is serving. So that must be very challenging, man. Which part of it do you feel that is very challenging for you?
Yeah, well, there are times when it becomes very challenging. For one, sometimes it's difficult to resolve the issues, and then other times customers are a bit impatient or a bit upset or a bit angry. I mean, obviously, it's impacting their bottom line, and they want things fixed or they don't know how to do something. But yeah, we sort of just go through our troubleshooting procedures. I'd probably say the most challenging part of it would be where the order forms are not submitting proper, payments are failing, because that's where people are getting upset because
upset and very impatient, I think so, right?
Yeah, so there's a few tricks of the trade that we're taught, and we sort of go through all of the procedures. More often than not, it's custom code that's causing the issue as well. With ClickFunnels, as I'm sure you realise, to really get the full benefit out of it, usually you have to add sort of custom code, like from CF Pro Tools, or there's another one, Funnelish, and there's probably a few more out there, custom code as well. And we don't actually provide support for custom code, so that can get people upset as well. If they've got CF Pro Tools code, then they really need to contact CF Pro Tools or a developer.
Or Funnelish, or their developer. And that's true. That's true. I mean, if you are in the middle of a launch, right? And then suddenly, for whatever reason, the order forms doesn't work, right? Then there has to be something wrong with it. And in most cases, like myself, I barely actually use just the simple ClickFunnels setup because we're catering both PayPal and Stripe, right? So there has to be some custom coding involved. And now, some freaking things happen during the launch, and which is not caused by ClickFunnels, by the way. It was mainly caused by either the custom code we installed or the revisions in the CSS that, we add up in the design, which somehow messes up the real thing. And man, if that's going to be the case, I think at least in my opinion, it would be very fulfilling for you to solve a case, right? For a ticket.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you always sort of get a kick out of it at the end, especially on a long ticket where there's been a lot of back and forth, and the customer's getting frustrated. Then you finally manage to pinpoint why it's not working and help the customer out, and then they're happy. So that's always good. And I'm also able to get on the call with the customers as well. There's only certain agents that have permission to set up calls, but we can share screens as well, which makes it a bit easier rather than just sort of sending videos or typing stuff out. The idea is to reduce the back and forth and to answer it as quickly as possible to get them, to get it up and running. So that sort of helps a bit as well with the screen shares. But yeah, very fulfilling once you finally get it sorted out and the customer's happy. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. And I believe this is something that I don't know probably. So ClickFunnels does provide phone support or calls for VIPs only. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so the ones that are on the highest plan,
okay.
Which was called the collective plan, I think that it's I think they've renamed it, but anyway, there's a plan that they're paying $2,500 a month, and they can call in whenever they like. They have like a little icon in their dashboard where they can call, and there's a team of experts that answer those. I've done a few of those, but because I'm on the night shift, I haven't got everybody sort of answering those during the shift. But they've been trialling something else now where they call it proactive phone support, where if you feel that there's too much back and forth and it would just be quicker to
resolve it
call with the customer, then a few of us have permission to set up a call, and then we do a Google Meet where we share screens, and it works out well because the customer is a lot happier to get on,
You bet. There has some personal touch involved, so it makes them feel, special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and people are spending, right? And all props to ClickFunnels, by the way, because every year they're really, doing their best to develop and, enhance the service. And we're glad that we have you, man. You're supporting the community, and thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no problem. That's just something that they've just sort of tried recently, so I'm not sure if that's going to be a long-term thing, but I hope it is, because it's better for us and it's better for the customer, so it's a win-win. So let's see what happens. Yeah,
I mean, hopefully they get that, all sorted out, because in the long run, and maybe eventually, for long-term purposes, ClickFunnels is still growing, man.
Yeah,
they are still growing, and even during this pandemic, more and more clients and business owners like ourselves are in the system, and that is a pretty critical role, I believe, man. One that you're working, with support. It is very critical to any type of business, but this is something that I'm really blown away. I so love your podcast, man. I know you found me first, but when I found you and checked you out, I was like, dude, this may probably have the best concept I could probably think of in terms of helping people out and understanding what funnels are really all about. So let's talk about that. Funnel Fella Radio. Yep. How did you come up with a concept, and what pushed you through to doing this podcast?
Well, that's a very good question, actually, because sort of for a long time I'd been trying to build a list and get my name out there, even before I was working at ClickFunnels. And I had, at the very beginning, like 10 years ago, for a while, I'd tried blog posts, and, it would start off and then I'd run out of steam. And then I discovered Ben Settle with his daily email sort of idea, which is a fantastic idea. I think it's great. I tried that, but I didn't have the discipline or the creativity to continue with it and do it on a daily basis, come out with all these ideas for emails. I used to always, I don't know, it became too much. And then at the start of this year, I thought, well, let's try something different. Let's try some podcasting. I mean, I've always been an introvert, and it's not really sort of my sort of thing, but I thought, well, let's try to get out of my comfort zone and try something different. I didn't really have too much idea how I was going to do it or what I was going to do. But
really?
Well, in the beginning, the idea was just to do a podcast about funnels, and I just wanted to get it started. So there wasn't a lot of thought that was put into it in the beginning, to be honest with you, but I had the goal of getting to the end of the year with 104 episodes, which is 2 episodes per week, because I'd heard Steve Larson, who I'm sure you're familiar with. He said that, podcasting changed his life, and, if you just consistently do a podcast, in the beginning it's not going to be very good, but eventually if you keep doing it, then you'll build up a following and you'll find your voice and people will start following you.
Yeah.
So that's why in the beginning I wasn't too worried if the episodes weren't very good. And, I probably knew they weren't. I was reading a lot of stuff, from the screen, and I was doing my best. But the main thing was I was actually doing them. I was publishing them. And then maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, I hired a VA or assistant, whatever you want to call it. And she went back through all the old episodes, uploaded them onto a blog and transcribed them. And then sort of eventually I realised that instead of just me sort of talking, it was better if I was interviewing people. The hardest part of interviewing, though, when you're not a big name, is actually getting people to agree to do an interview. So that's the hardest part of it. But other than that, it's just been so interesting to meet all of these people, learn from them, get to know them, make the connection, and share the content out to people. And it's been really great. So so far I'm up to date to reach that goal of 104 episodes. So we're about 2/3 of the way through the year. I think I'm up to about episode 66 or something. So
you're halfway there.
Yeah. So so far so good. And I think slowly too, I've noticed that I'm getting better and better at it. I've still got a long way to go, but you got to start somewhere. And the main thing is just to keep going and not to give up.
Yeah, and literally just by simply pulling the trigger. And I couldn't agree more to what you said, man. I mean, the first episode I had, maybe first two, I really didn't get the hang of it. I know I had the concept in mind and the right intentions, but the thing is, it's just not natural for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it has something to do between myself stepping out of my comfort zone and trying to reach out to people to guest. It's one of the toughest part, in my opinion. The feeling of being rejected. Do you know how that feels? I freaking hate that, man. So that's the thing that I've been going through for the past few months. Now, we're literally everybody listening tuned in right now. You're listening to episode number 9, but I have so much in line already for everybody. So I'm getting the hang of it, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah, once you get used to it, it's good fun. I agree. Yeah,
it is. It is fun. I mean, you get to meet people, you get to learn.
Yeah.
How they succeeded as well, different avenues on how to make money online. I literally, blown by how they started. Like yourself, how you pulled this off. Having to create Funnel Fella Radio and working alongside, with ClickFunnels. That's something very interesting, at least in my opinion. So, I mean, considering the things that you're doing, man. I know that you've been building out funnels as well, and you're an expert with that, also with Funnelytics. I really wanted to know what was perhaps the most unforgettable type of funnel, or maybe funnels you've built, and how it impacted your professionally, or maybe financially.
Yeah, well, it probably comes to mind a survey funnel that I did a couple of years ago for a client in the construction industry in Australia. So the survey funnels, if they're built out properly, they're quite complicated and complex, and they take a bit of time because there's so many different funnel paths and
components.
The tech side of it can be a bit of a nightmare. ClickFunnels at the moment, they've got a good survey feature, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I think they're working hard to improve on it. So when the survey responses go through, it's difficult to get the opt-in and then to also get the survey responses recorded for the contact. So I had to sort of do a lot. I won't go into extreme detail about it, but I had to sort of work out how to get it so that every single answer that was selected ended up inside of the customer's contact profile. And then at the end of it, depending on what they selected, they would end up on a certain landing page which was customized to the responses that they've given on the survey. So not only did that require a bit of technical ability, but it also required copywriting, as well to match all the different segments. So there was basically 4 different buckets of people that
coming in
that would be broken down to, and then inside of those buckets there would be different parameters as well based on what they've chosen. So we'd need to match it up so that everything fitted in nicely. It was sort of based on the Ask method by Ryan Levesque. I'm sure you've had. Yeah, it wasn't exactly how he suggests to build it, but it was the same sort of model. Anyway, in the end, it was leading them towards a application page for business coaching. And the coaching was about $25,000 each, so they only needed a few people to actually end up registering and then paying the money for it to be a huge winner. And the way that it was framed as well was that they had to basically suggest why they were worthy of getting this business coaching, because it was limited amount of spots. There was scarcity and urgency put in there, and the way it was framed, it made them feel like they were special to actually get a spot. And in the end, I'm not sure exactly how many they sold, but it was at least a six-figure campaign, and the amount of ad spend that was spent on that was like nowhere near it. I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but it would have been at least a return on investment of 10 to 1. So
wow,
that
10x, huh?
Yeah, 10x, as Russell Grant Cardone says. Yeah. So it worked out really well, and it was just interesting to build that funnel from start to finish and to see it succeed. And I was really happy for them. So that was good.
Yeah. That must have been very special, man. Because the complexity of it all, right? And having to use the standard, survey, element that ClickFunnels provides. In most cases, I don't have the patience for that. I really don't have the patience for that, Scott. Tell you honestly, I'm used to using Typeform, Jotform, much easier. But some clients are actually requesting that, especially if they're a big fan of Russell. They saw it on the funnel. They really want to replicate it. You know what I mean? So having to go through that, and especially the transmission of the data. That's the hardest part, because it's not really as smooth as we hope to.
No, Typeform looks a lot nicer and is cleaner, but the thing with that is it doesn't record the data inside of ClickFunnels, maybe unless you're using Zapier, possibly. But
yeah, I don't think so. There's no way to transmit it back to ClickFunnels. It gets hosted to Typeform. If you're using a different CRM, if not Actionetics, you don't have a problem. But if you're using Actionetics, then there's the problem there.
Yeah.
That must be fun times, man. 10x results, having to fulfill how difficult what it was, in the technical aspect, and having to pull it off. That must have been good. Now, is ClickFunnels big in Australia, bro? I really don't know.
There's a few people using it, but as far as I'm aware, about 90% or 80% of the members are based in the US, and then the rest of it's sort of spread around the world. And because of the exchange rate, it's pretty expensive to use ClickFunnels here. Unless you're actually making money, like decent money, then it's not really worth the investment, to be honest with you. Because, if you go back a few months when the pandemic first hit, the exchange rate here was really bad. So it was almost like double the price. So
wow.
$297 US. In Australia, it was like 500 or 550 or maybe not. But it was really expensive, and most people just can't afford that. And if you're not making money, getting
already,
it's not worth it. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly the same here. I mean, living in a third world country like ours, that is like a shitload of money spending with a single platform. And not just that, that, right? There are tons of other tools that needs to be connected with ClickFunnels. So a hefty investment in general. But I think it's still very phenomenal, Scott, right? Considering that the word is really going out. A lot of countries are actually using it. I've noticed that tons of people or business owners are using it in the UK too. And I just recently noticed that in the past few 6 or 7 months, I believe, and it's gaining traction. Even in Singapore, I'm getting responses from there, and I was blown away. How did you know about it? So more on the accounting firms, law firms, they're actually
Russell's books. That's why they see Russell's books.
And I think he recently made a breakthrough, right?
New York Times best-selling author. That's pretty huge. I thought he was already achieved that.
I really thought too. And then I think it wasn't really official until this year. So that's he was flexing it.
Yeah.
He was flexing it the past few days. And
Yeah.
man, how is the pandemic treating you and your business there in Australia?
Well, it hasn't actually affected me personally at all. Because a lot of people are going online now, because they can't go out, they're starting up online businesses. Then the demand was huge. There's a lot of overtime when it first hit. So there was no shortage of work at ClickFunnels, and I was also building funnels for customers as well. And it didn't really affect me at all. But I mean, I know that there was other people that may be working in retail or doing a regular job that it definitely would affect them. And even now, like there's a certain part in Australia, Melbourne, that's they've had a second wave, and there's a lot of people there, or a lot of cases there at the moment. So they're in lockdown still. So I mean, a lot of people out of work. So it's pretty bad over there. But I'm on the west coast, on the other side of Australia. So everything's back to normal here. So yeah, it's all good.
Good. At least, man, yourself, your family are safe. Work is still progressing, and I believe it's still a good problem to have, considering the amount of work that you're still getting. I think even if you try and come to think about it, we've been doing this for years, man. It's just like we're used to what we're doing. It's just that when this pandemic hit, we already have established ourselves. And again, our hearts go out to everybody that's struggling right now. And hopefully, you can get to listen on this episode. Please have this as your inspiration that there's definitely some hope at the end of all of this. I mean, this is just another avenue that you can explore and tap into to make money online. So, man, I mean, any final words for people looking to become funnel builders or funnel experts?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in this day and age, I mean, already things were starting to change a bit, with artificial intelligence and robots and all that sort of stuff, where a lot of normal sort of regular traditional jobs are no longer even, available anymore. And it's leading more and more to automation. So regular jobs these days, it's difficult. But particularly if you've got no work at all, then it's definitely well worth looking to do something online. I mean, even if you started off doing VA work or anything, basically just and starting off with a low wage and then build yourself up over time, then it's definitely worth looking into. I know that there's a few people in the Philippines that work at ClickFunnels. If you were able to get a job like that, then or any sort of company that's from the US, then that pays really well. Obviously, with the currency conversion, you have to have the skills though. So if you're starting from scratch, and you haven't really got much background with, working online, then it's just a matter of getting started. Like we were saying before, you might even need to work for free in the beginning, which isn't ideal, but you get experience that way. You can get some testimonials, some case studies. And then once you've got some results behind you, you can start going on sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or there's a good one in the Philippines, Online Jobs.
Online Jobs, yeah.
Yeah. And there's lots of people looking for, for employees to help them with certain stuff. So, and particularly if you niche down to a certain area as well, you'll stand out rather than just saying that you're a copywriter. Then you might be a copywriter for coaches, or I don't know, or just niche it down to a particular area, because that way you'll stand out, and you'll also have the same sorts of clients over and over again as well, which will make it easier to keep doing the work. So, so yeah, I mean, and if you're wanting to get involved with funnels, then Yeah, I mean, you could start sort of, as I mentioned, building funnels for free, helping out people, build up your case studies.
Building your portfolio while doing so.
Building out your portfolio, and then bit by bit. I mean, it takes time, but it's worth it. And, within a year or two, you can be making really decent money if you stick at it and be disciplined, and it'll change your life. So, yeah, I definitely recommend to at least look into it. If you're struggling for work or if you're looking for a career change.
Yeah, exactly. A good place to be. I mean, not everybody knows, and it's pretty new in our country here in the Philippines, Scott. So somehow, some way, people might not be even familiar what the heck are we talking about. But for the followers I have, and the audience I have, definitely these guys already has the idea and the concept behind. So it's really great to hear those from you. You've dropped tons of bombs for us today, and I appreciate you for that. And it's something that we can all ponder and take a look into. So guys, I mean, as what Scott said, try to build your portfolio, dig deeper into it, try to see if this skill set is something that you can that resonates to you.
Yeah.
And if it motivates you even further, then you gotta need to pull the trigger and work your ass off to master the skill.
Yeah. You got to provide value and give people a reason to hire you. So exactly, it doesn't just come easily. But it's
true.
It's worth it. Yeah.
It is certainly true. And at the end of the day, it's going to be all worth it, right? It's not just for you, but for your entire family too. It could really mean so much. So, man, I know I'm really having a good time now, and I just want to give your thoughts maybe on the topic of today's show, because on the topic of today's show, we talked about how Russell discussed about the importance of simplicity with funnels, and the difference between a funnel that brings 7 figures in revenue versus a funnel that brings 8 figures in revenue. Maybe you can add up into that what you feel would be beneficial in separating the two.
Yeah, well, for me, the main thing is optimization, testing. So very important to always be testing at least something, particularly headlines and copy, the messaging. And also, like I talked about before, a bit of personalization as well, where you're digging down deep into specific segments of the marketplace rather than just sending out generalized messages, to a broad group of people, to really laser in.
Targeted,
on different
audience.
Segments. You're still selling the same product, but there'll be different types of people that are going to end up buying that product. So laser into segments, test.
Agree.
You keep the winners, you get rid of the losers, and look at it long term as well. Because if a funnel's already making 7 figures, then it's already successful. But you got to look at it from a long term perspective, where the more that you're optimizing it, the more you're improving it, the more you're learning about your audience, then the better it's going to be. And you would also, I think, try different channels of advertising as well to see what works. That's the other thing. Rather than just advertising on Facebook, which a lot of people do these days, you really want to be trying as many things as possible, and finding out what works, what doesn't work, and just sort of refining it over time. So for me, they're the main things: that the segmenting, the personalization. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Because if you're already hitting 7 figures, right, and you're aiming for 8, it means that you already have a winning formula. So I think you nailed it, man. You nailed it. Scaling, testing, proper segmentation, all the way.
Yeah.
Well said, Scott. Appreciate your feedback for that.
If you've got it to 7 figures, then really there's no reason why you can't get it to 8 figures.
True.
That would be a lot easier than getting it from 0 to 7 figures. So
yes, of course.
Yeah.
And I think it truly makes sense, and I couldn't agree more to that, man. So, buddy, how can people connect with you, bro? I mean, if they're interested to work with you and perhaps follow you in your podcast, please let everybody know about this.
All right, so I've actually got 2 podcasts. There's a new one that's coming up as well. So it's Funnel Fella Radio, which if you're watching this, you can see the URL in the background there. It's pretty straightforward, just funnelfellaradio.com. And that's got all of the episodes on there and the transcripts and the links to, all the actual podcasts on iTunes and all of that. And there's also a new one that I'm starting up as well shortly, which is called SaaS Startup Stories. So SaaS is just an acronym for Software as a Service. So on this podcast, I'll be interviewing software CEOs, sort of trying to find out how they got started and how they've, managed to get things to work, and sort of just an inside look at, behind their business and what they're looking to do in the future. One day I'd like to become a software CEO as well. So that's sort of the reason behind that podcast.
Nice.
But if you want to check that out, then that's at saasstartupstories.com. So SaaS is SAAS, startupstories.com. So, yeah, they're the 2 podcasts. And from there, you should be able to see a contact link where you can get in contact with me. Or you can just email me. It's pretty straightforward, scott@scottdudley.com.
Nice, man. Appreciate for that. So, guys, just a recap, I'll be putting up all the links on this episode. And then, if you're interested to go ahead and work with Scott, then feel free to connect with him. And again, Funnel Fellow Radio, guys, you better stay tuned. And if you're someone like me that is still constantly trying to learn every day when it comes to funnel building, funnel concepts, funnel strategies, it's always good to learn, right? So absorb as many content as you can. And Scott here is providing such an amazing library of content that everybody can consume. While you're driving in your car, you can listen to the podcast episodes and stuff like that. So, man, honored again for honoring us to be here on our show, Scott. Appreciate you, brother.
Awesome, man. I had a blast. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, guys. I know it's pretty late. Let's wrap it up. I hope you had fun today, as Scott and I had fun, really. So let's all have a blast, guys. Hope you had fun, Scott.
I did, absolutely. It was awesome.
All right, guys. This is Nothing But Up, the podcast. Until our next episode. Peace, y'all.
I'm always flexing.
Thanks for tuning in. Download this episode and pass on the news. Hit like and subscribe. Watch out for our next episode coming out next.